There were service companies in our markets that weren't trustworthy. We saw that as an opportunity to say, you know what, we're going to start a service company that is classy, and we're going to do that first, and then we're going to figure out a way to make money. And I can tell you, all of my peers at CFESA are wired the same way. It is estimated that some 20,000 companies exist in the continental United States that do what I do. There's 500, a little over 500 CFESA companies. They want to be honest. They want to tell the truth, a version of service that you can count on.
Hello, MAFSI members, reps, manufacturers, industry channel partners, and fans of a good time. This is MAFSI Podcast episode number 2, The Good, the Bad, and the Food Service Industry. This chapter entitled Better Together, Maximizing the Relationship Between Service Agents and Manufacturers Reps. My name is Chris Jeans. I'm with WD College Company in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
My name is Sean Gallagher. I'm with the Smid-Wilson Group out of the Mid-Atlantic area.
Mike Colligan with High Sabatino Associates, also MAFSI Region 5 in the Mid-Atlantic area. Today's topic on podcast number 2, equipment repair industry represented by CFESA is a critical component of the industry as a whole and usually enters the equation at a significant disadvantage, at least as perceived by the end users. Today's goal is to address how service impacts our industry and how we as members of MAFSI, dealers, even the end user community, can better work together to make sure that we have the best end result. And to that end, we have a special guest with us today on this podcast, Nick Cribb. He is with Sam Service. He is one of the partners in Sam Service, Inc., out of Albany, Georgia, with multiple locations throughout Georgia and Florida. And he is the current president of CFESA. So with that, Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and thank you so much for coming out to join us today.
Yeah, man. Happy to be up here in Atlanta with you guys. Happy to be on your podcast, and hopefully we can add value and a little bit of knowledge and understanding to this great industry we're all a part of. I've been married for 15 years, just celebrated 15 years with my wife in Chicago. I took her to NRA. Richard Packer told me I was an idiot for doing that, but we had a great time. We've got 3 kids. I've got a 15-year-old Bailey. I've got a 6-year-old Little Miss Bentley, and I've got a 4-year-old Mr. Eason. We also have a dog. She's a golden doodle. Her name's Luna, and she drives me absolutely insane, but I love her like I love my kids. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys and talk about some relatable things with our audience.
Well, thank you for that, Nick. Let's all raise a toast and say thank you to Nick for joining us today.
Cheers, Nick.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
And so with that, the idea that we're going to talk about the relationships between manufacturers, reps, and service agents, I'm going to throw it over to Sean to ask Nick the first question with regards to our topic today.
So my first question to you is, can you just tell us what the current state of the food service industry is from a service standpoint?
Yeah, from a service standpoint, and in general, I think it's really good, right? I mean, you've got the general population's eating out more than ever before. You've got schools and other institutions that are looking the way that they serve food and the type of food that they're serving in a way that they haven't historically, right, with the health focus and things like that, and obviously being energy sustainable, reducing that carbon footprint. And there's a lot of change going on right now that ultimately I think is going to be good for all of us. There's going to be a lot of new equipment to install and sell and to just make the food service world a better place. With that being said, from a service standpoint, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think we know what our challenges are. I think one of them is we're overcoming today is just working better with our 5 family members and saying, hey, what is your perspective? What is your view? Here's mine. And where do we meet in the middle for the greater good? Because we know that a rising tide raises all ships, right? We've got to do this thing together. And usually having open and honest communication, candid communication, and building relationships is where resolution comes.
Yeah, then that makes so much sense. And the notion that there are partnerships that we can create as channel partners because we're servicing the same customer, really. And Mike, any perspective that you want to shed light on as far as maybe where things stand from a rep's perspective?
I think first from a rep perspective and my personal eyes on it, I'm happy to be here today because it is a reflection of a growing awareness of how we all need to work better together. I think for many years, many of us just we showed up and we did our own thing. Dealers did their thing, reps did their thing, consultants did their thing, service agencies did their thing. For the most part, kind of worked out with a number of issues from time to time. But the ability to realize that we have this window and to work with the 5 families for the greater good of the entire industry, I think is really important. Some of the things that we've seen on our side of the ball, Nick, has been labor issues. It was prior to COVID, but I think COVID magnified that significantly. How is that impacting our service partners as well? Because obviously, we need to get people out quick. Everybody wants to be serviced yesterday, as soon as it breaks. Why isn't somebody here in 10 minutes? What kind of challenges are you facing with respect to labor in the industry?
Yeah, so the same one everybody is, right? We don't just need technicians, we also need leaders. I mean, we need really, really solid people to grow our different businesses as a CFESA member. And to do that, we don't need people that can just turn wrenches, right? We need people that can attract other people like them in. One of the ways that we're doing that is working very closely with an organization called Skills USA, which historically focuses on agriculture and farming and a little bit of the automotive field, to where they say, hey, if you're a technical-minded guy or gal, you should consider one of these fields. And what we've done is we entered ourselves into that conversation. We are at the shows, at the conventions, showing people here's a complex piece of cooking equipment that you can make a really, really good living if you understand how it operates and if you can understand how to install it and repair it when it breaks. And then we just start to bring ourselves into that platform so that we can have an opportunity to earn some of those future laborers. There's a new style of education that's going down in Georgia. It's called 4C Academy, and what they do is it's the kind of the new version of the technical school that you guys probably had when you were growing up, that I had in my high school. Either you were going like college prep or you were going VOTEC. This 4C is kind of leveling that up, and a part of their curriculum is you have to get a job. So they have to go out and find a job where they're actually doing the things that they're learning about, and we can be a part of them, achieving the success of that degree. And then obviously we can hopefully offer them a job if they're worth their salt.
Very cool.
Another thing that we've done is we've tasked our membership with going out into their own states and counties and letting people know, hey, here's a job opportunity here. Is there a chamber of commerce you can work with? Is there a school board you can work with? Is there a hospital that would like to partner with you to get people attracted to our industry, trying to overcome that labor problem that exists everywhere? And then the last thing that we're doing is kind of a Hail Mary approach, but we're gonna approach it as aggressively as we can, is to lobby for it at a national level. We don't necessarily know how we're gonna achieve that yet, but we do believe that, I remember when I was a kid, Bill Clinton said, every American deserves to own a home. And then all of a sudden you had all these people that owned homes because he put it out there. He put this comment out there that people got behind. He also said every American deserves to have an education, like a college degree. And like a lot of people got college degrees. Now, those two things didn't necessarily end well with the 2008 economic mortgage crisis and then what's going on with the student loans today. But it still stands that if you can get somebody out there to put this problem that we have out there at a high enough perspective, I think there can be some real seismic change.
During COVID, I heard that in the service side of things that a lot of agencies lost a lot of their key technical, leaders that they had on their teams. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to try to help, get that level of expertise back up and out into the field?
Yeah, so our big, hairy, audacious goal, our 10-year target at CFESA right now is called 33 by 33. And what that means is 33,000 course completions by the year 2033. Now, there's a lot that we have to do to achieve that level of course completions, and it's going to be figuring out a learning management software that people with different styles of learning can achieve a lot of technical growth there just by getting online and taking those course curriculum classes. It's going to be offering more on-site, not just at our headquarters in the Carolinas, but also maybe in the Midwest, maybe out west, maybe somewhere in Europe. It's also going to mean not just teaching about technical things, but also soft skills and how to communicate well and how to be a good manager. It's it's also talking about how to be a good businessman or businesswoman. There are people who start out in my field as they turn wrenches and they do it really, really well and they communicate well with people. And the next thing you know, they're looking at a balance sheet and a P&L and it might as well be Greek to them. We want to offer them the opportunity to gain in knowledge there as well. Again, you'll hear me say this a lot if you spend some time with me. We feel like a rising tide raises all ships. We really want to up the standard to that of excellence in all regards, right? It doesn't matter. We don't want to just have excellent technicians. We want to have excellent businessmen and businesswomen. We want to have excellent salespeople. We want to have excellent dispatchers. And we just feel like if you're oozing excellence, people are going to want to be around you, and we're all going to win.
So the term you've used a few times is leaders, and that exemplifies all of those qualities in one word. And I love hearing that. And I'm going to borrow that. I'm stealing it from you, Nick.
You can have it. You don't have to steal.
And 33 by 33, that's super ambitious. I love that too. And I'm going to segue from there and give a bit of a shout to MAFSI's Pantry of Knowledge that we've created, because those types of big, hairy, audacious goals that CFESA have set, maybe we should do the same thing at MAFSI to set some targets for the number of courses that get taken through that Pantry of Knowledge, because the outcome will be just as Nick's described for his association. So that's a fantastic bit of insight there. Question. And if we're going to become better partners together as reps and service agents, and keeping in mind that both businesses are contractually obligated to represent specific manufacturers in a given territory, and that brings us together. But I think when we decided to run this as a topic, we thought that one of the things that we're challenged by in this industry is the fact that there are a lot of reps and conversely a lot of service agents that don't really have a deep understanding of one another's businesses. So if I were to ask you, Nick, what are some things that you believe reps do, or things that you would need to learn about what reps do that would help you in your territory and in the relationships you have with the reps that you see day to day?
Yeah, so we typically have very good relationships with the reps in our area, and even as they change, that's a headline for us to deal with, right? Like we want to know who the new rep coming in if one rolls out, and to just be in communication with them. We have a pretty good understanding of what it is that you guys do, but sometimes the breakdown happens when every single one of our customer, Mike alluded to this earlier, when they got a problem, they want us to handle it right now. And yes, we do work for a lot of manufacturers like you guys do a bulk of your work for it, but 75% of my revenue opportunities come from customers that have pieces of equipment that are outside of warranty. Like it has nothing to do with a warranty relationship or an install or any of that. 75% of the time when I have an opportunity to go earn revenue, it is on a old or out of warranty piece of equipment. So that should be an aha moment for some of the reps, and it has been for the ones in our areas when we tell them that, because they're so hyper-focused on getting that new line out there, communicating that, and and it's always new, sales, and we get it. We want to be a good partner with that, but also it's a very small part of our ecosystem within service. Does not mean that it does not matter. Because I'll tell you this, we've learned that being good partners with the reps and getting those new pieces of equipment out and championing those manufacturers oftentimes enables us to have that customer forever, right? That's that one opportunity to get us in the door. We get that. But at the end of the day, the math is the math. And when Shirley at the Red Lobster in Tifton's calling, and the food service director at Doherty County Schools is calling, and Dan at Inspire Brands, and there's a company that makes chicken sandwiches and they're really nice when they call, there's a lot that we have to overcome there when the rep's saying, hey man, one of the legs is making the unit wobble at this particular location. It's just it's important, we get it, but just quick download there from my perspective, right, wrong, or indifferent.
I love that bit of data, that 75%. It puts things in amazing perspective. So thanks for sharing that.
Can you tell us, you were talking about the number of calls that are coming into, any one of the agencies. Can you tell us the hierarchy of is it kind of first in first out that you guys will go to those services, or is it based on location where your tech is at the time the call comes in, or can you just give for some of the listeners out there that may not understand kind of the workflow, because you guys are inundated with calls from manufacturers, from like you said, customers, non-warranty work. Just kind of tell us a little bit of how that process works, and then how you kind of assign the calls to which techs and how quickly they go out.
Yeah, for sure. So we definitely have key accounts, right? We have those big eggs in the basket that we want to make sure are cared for very gently, and they're kept warm, and they're always happy. But even those, there's still a lot of spread in the basket. There's still a lot of other eggs there, and there's a lot of variables that go into how we achieve that. What we've whittled it down to at SAM is you always got to figure out a way to close the next call. Because sometimes if you wait for the perfect situation to line up on your dispatch board, or the technician with the perfect skill set, or the timing of the customer that's prepared for us to have, if you wait for all those things to happen, you're not going to get a whole lot done. So you got to be pretty bullish about saying, how do I just get one more call closed per tech per day? And sometimes that means that the rep might get exactly what he wants because I'm going to get a guy over there. And sometimes that might mean that the school, the prison, or the hospital gets what they want. So we're always just trying to be aggressive with closing one extra call per tech per day. And obviously, if we've got about 40 techs, we can really move the needle with 40 extra calls closed per day, which should help all of our end users.
Mike, why don't you give an example of what you see as a really great rep service agent relationship? What are the key factors?
Well, for me, I just think that having that open dialogue, I personally try and take as many of my service agents out in the field, out to lunch every chance I get, thank them for the awesome effort they put into this job or that job, and recognizing the effort and the time that goes into an adverse situation. I think, I work hard to communicate with the different service agents in my territory, and I find that the more we communicate and the more we work together, I get feedback from my service agent partners that gives me tools to go back and manage expectations, or give good feedback, or help that customer get ready for that particular service call or installation. And then I'm also trying to be an advocate for my service agents too, by being in there and saying, some of this, and this is a hard conversation that none of us want to have with customers. We don't like to talk about money problems, and we don't like to talk about service problems, but having that conversation saying some of this could have been prevented, right? With better cleaning, better care. So I often advocate, if you don't have the resources, internally with some facilities people, look at doing a PM service with, one of these service agents, because I think, and I'll have that conversation with, yes, there's going to be a contract and there's going to be a cost, but that cost is small compared to the cost of replacing XYZ equipment, mostly because the life of that piece of equipment has been diminished over time for a lack of proper care. So if we can, get our customers to buy in on maybe a PM contract with one of our service partners, that's a win. That makes them a priority customer for the service agent, right? It makes them, better prepared. The equipment's better maintained. It's in a cleaner environment. All of those things go a long way to make sure that equipment lasts longer. So communicating that, and then going backwards and say, hey, I had a conversation with such and such university or such and such, K through 12 school system, and I recommended you guys come in and talk to them about a PM, and they were receptive. So then my service partner out there in that particular field in my territory, jumps on that, makes that call, and I think that turns out to be a win long term. Does that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. Mike, you told some good stories. And you talked about preventative maintenance, and it was a topic that I was going to bring up. I actually love a story that I heard years ago from one of our good service partners who had a preventative maintenance program with a company, and part of that PM was a reduction in the cost of parts. and the customer was disappointed after a couple of years because they didn't have to replace any parts at a lower cost. And the reason was because they'd had the PM program. So it was it validated the program in a funny way. I'll go to Nick asking about PM programs. What percentage of your customers are utilizing that kind of service?
I'd say well over 50% of them understand the importance of preventative maintenance, and we try to partner with people that are serious about the understanding of their kitchen and how it works, and the huge investment of the assets that they have in that kitchen. So for the most part, we do see a significant portion of people that do it. And, one of the things that have been uncovered for us lately with some really large customers that we've had is doing them the right way and them capturing the energy savings that they've received. A good friend of mine, Peter Cryan, once shared with me some information of some stores that we had done for work for him, and when we were hired to do the PM, he could show on this large scale of the significant energy savings that it saved the corporation that he was working for at the time. And that was an aha moment for me, because I always thought that it was solely eliminating downtime from a filter getting clogged up because it wasn't cleaned properly, or coils not being sprayed right and cleaned right, and it's so much more than that.
That's a fantastic way of looking at it. I mean, and what an eye-opening side of that. You alluded, Nick, earlier to a spectrum of customers, from that one customer that makes really good chicken sandwiches to the school system to XYZ one-off restaurant. And within that spectrum, you have a whole, how do I say it, like a professional expectation, right? Changes from the chicken sandwich manufacturer down to the K through 12 school, down to, me owning, XYZ pizza shop, in Albany, Georgia. So we have one customer group that has a clear expectation and an understanding of what services you're going to provide and the value that you provide. And then I think at the other end of the spectrum, you probably deal with a significant amount of people that don't, right? You're the bane of their existence, because you're only there because something failed, right? Something in one of the brands of equipment that we represent, or one of our dealers sold, failed. So they approach it differently. How do you address the education of the customer from a service point of view?
Yeah, so we try to over-communicate when it comes to understanding why it is that we're charging people money, and we try to do that really, really well on the front end, because when you start charging people money, or you start communicating problems to them, this thing happens with their emotions, where they get really, really high, and when emotions get high, logic gets really, really low, and it makes it a bad platform for us to have any meaningful conversation. Right. So we try to say, hey, we're going to be expensive, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to do the right thing for you. I'm going to tell the truth. The reason why Sam Service exists is because there were service companies in our markets that weren't trustworthy, and they didn't do the right things. And we saw that as an opportunity to say, we're going to start a service company that is classy and they're honest. And we're going to do that first, and then we're going to figure out a way to make money. That's what we did it. And I can tell you, all of my peers at CFESA are wired the same way. It is estimated that some 20,000 companies exist in the continental United States that do what I do. There's 500, a little over 500 CFESA companies. So there's 500 people I know of that run companies that are committed to excellence. They want to be honest. They want to tell the truth. But listen, I can empathize with you guys, right? There's a lot of people that are on the complete opposite end of that spectrum. If that math is right, there's 19,500 companies that don't care. And so I can empathize with how frustrating that must be. But at the same time, I think that adds an incredible value to a CFESA company that says, hey, you can trust me. I want to be honest. I want to be held accountable. And I want to be a version of service that you can count on.
I've always, and I've said it a lot, that a service agent has the opportunity with a customer of being their greatest asset, the biggest hero, more so than any of the other channel partners, really, because you're fixing things when they need them fixed. And the way that you just described your business and how you approach things has got to be pretty rewarding. Do you have good examples of moments where you feel like you've gone above and beyond in a hospitable way to help a customer?
Yeah, man, thousands of them, and most of them cost us a lot of money, but that's what doing the right thing looks like. There have been times where we just misdiagnosed something, and the way that you deal with a misdiagnosis is you own it. And you tell your customer, we misdiagnosed this and I'm going to make it right. I'm going to spend the money. It is not on you. It is on me. And the buy-in and the relationship building that comes from doing that is always 10 to 100-fold. I got to imagine if I messed something up for Mike and I said, hey, man, I screwed up. I'm going to own this thing. I'm going to fix it for you. And I make that problem go away. Mike's going to be tripping over his own feet to give me any opportunity to grow my business that he runs across, period. He's going to do everything he can for. So why would we not do that with every single person we come in contact with? There's just so much value that comes out of the fundamentals of being honest and being candid. Our second core value at Sam Service is my particular favorite, and is we earn trust through clear and candid communication. And I don't know if you guys have ever had clear and candid communication with your wives, but sometimes it stings a little bit. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's
Radical
fierce
candor.
eyesight back and forth, but there's always fruit that comes with it because we can all deal with whatever the truth is.
If that's your second core value, Nick, I really want to hear your first core value, because that's an perfectly stated core value that I think has a lot of value and resonance, for each of our businesses, certainly probably for MAFSI as a whole. And it's certainly something that all of us should be embracing.
We've said it in our business that people really don't know how potentially strong you are as a partner until something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's your business is dealing with that on a daily basis. So you get this plethora, or as you said, thousands of opportunities to be hospitable and to take service to another level and create those types of relationships with customers. It's an enviable thing.
And the funny thing about it too is that we could spend thousands and thousands of dollars on marketing, right? Email blasts and well-written articles. We're showing up in magazines. We're on podcasts like this. And the value I get from one thing that went wrong, making it right, is such a better spend every day of the week. Okay, so I bought a compressor and I comped 6 hours of a guy's time. I could have spent so much more money getting an email blast out there that everybody just throws into their junk bin.
Right.
Whenever it's more of a return for everybody for me to just be honest and do the right thing, or for I should say us in our industry as CFESA companies.
Yeah, just wait until you get our bill for this. Don't worry. Now, one of the questions I was going to just ask you, because you've come across a lot in your, over the years. What as reps can we do to make your job easier? Are you getting the right information on the call that you're getting ready to go see? How can we make your job and communicate better to the techs that are going to be out there? Because I know that's got to be a huge problem, them walking into something where, they think they're going in there for a griddle, but actually it's an oven that's wrong or something. So.
Yeah, so one opportunity I've seen, if you'll give me permission to be open and honest, and I have communicated this to my rep buddies in my own backyard, is that don't overpromise on our behalf. We would really appreciate you not doing that, because whenever you do, I don't even know what the standard you just set for me is that I've got to uphold to that person that I don't even know, I haven't met, we haven't communicated with. The way to do it is to say, hey, you definitely have a problem here. I've got a service company that I can trust that I need to seek counsel from. And when I seek counsel from them, I trust them, and either myself or them will report back to you. You got to kind of put it on pause. They're not wanting you to do that. I get that, and none of my customers do either. But sometimes you have to force people to hit that pause button and say, I know you're emotional. I know you're ticked off. I know you want it up and running right now. That's not going to happen. But there's a path to victory here that can happen very quickly if you allow me to do what I'm good at, which is to communicate with the people that I trust. And when that happens, I will forge that path to victory for you. We'll have this piece of equipment up and running again. And when you're honest with them and you tell them that, they'll accept it. But again, I understand you're in the crosshairs of, sometimes spitfire with these people on site or on the phone, and calming them down can be tougher with some than others. But I do believe that's the best way to do it. And I think it communicates something to them as well, that it's not just you. It's not just this rep that they're dealing with, but this rep has a board of directors of such, right, that they can get counsel from, and you're communicating to them that you're an intelligent, thoughtful, process-driven person that wants to solve that problem for them.
No, that's a great piece of advice. Thank you.
Yeah, I keep writing down things that you're saying, Nick.
You just asked us to embrace your second core value, right? And communicate with that customer, through, earn trust through clear and honest communication. I have a tendency to underpromise and work at over delivering. And, I really like your advice. I will implement it in my world right away, to a degree that I've not already done so, for sure. Well done.
Nick, there are means that a lot of us as reps and in the industry as a whole have taken to try to use technology to convey information and get the information that you as a service agent would need together faster. Are there programs or examples of technology that are out there that you would recommend we all pay attention to and that make your life easier?
Just in general and conceptually, right now, I wouldn't say there's an absolute product or thing that I could completely hang my hat on, but I will say two things. One, the ability to tell the story of a service call. We've seen a lot of value add for our end users in that. What I mean is, hey, my oven's broken, and the way that we show up, we take a picture of that oven. It's dirty, it's broken. We take a picture of the data plate. We show a picture of the part that needs to be replaced. We're putting the information in along the way. Okay, this is what was wrong with it. Parts were ordered. We showed back up 24 to 48 hours later. Here's the new part. Here's it's put on. And then we show that final picture of a clean oven, right? The first one shows a dirty oven. The last one shows a clean oven. And our customers really like that. It's so much better than them getting a $789 invoice that says unit was broke, now fixed. Somehow it just works better for them to see the story of it. Another thing that I'll tell you that we're leaning into is still in early development stages for us is the ability to use artificial intelligence. There's two opportunities I see. One is putting all of our data that my brain and my team's brains can't deduce what to make decisions out of for the most part, but AI can do it in about 13 seconds. We might have this whole idea of what we think is a proper inventory that AI might say, no, you need to return all of this and you need to level up on these other particular things. And especially as we try to maximize markets, as we enter these different markets that we're in. Another thing that I can see, hopefully, that will begin to happen is the competency needs of a technician may lower. Not meaning that the potential of them will lower, but I'm saying that I might be able to get a guy in that he's fixed every lawnmower he's ever worked on. He has a good understanding of how a car engine works, and I can get him with that technical style of thinking that he has. He can type in the issues that's going on with you name it, XYZ manufacturer of an oven, and it gives him the top 5 things that it might be. And then what he can do is start eliminating those things, and it just helps in the troubleshooting process of him not having to call somebody on the phone or figure it out himself. There's this program that's telling him things to eliminate along the way until he can arrive at what the actual fix may be. I do see a future where that could be beneficial, and obviously it's going to educate those technicians along the way. So even if they have a lower competency, but they can still get the oven fixed, it's going to increase their competency in some regards because they've just witnessed what fixing that oven is, even though AI helped them to do it. So I can see it being a good mix of really appropriate techniques that can benefit the end user as a whole in the end.
A number of rep organizations like ourselves have built into our websites, a back-end process for like my website has a big tab on it, says service. So we're trying to drive our customers to click on the service tab. There'll be a drop down for each of the manufacturers that we currently represent. Select the manufacturer. There's a field, that's mandatory that says model number, serial number, and then an opportunity to put description of the problem, and then the contact on site, right? And if there's a different service agent for each piece of equipment or each brand, then it goes off to the appropriate service company that handles that particular brand, and it's emailed out. And then there's part of that back end is a follow-up email within a few days back to the service agency, that it was originally sent to, says, hey, is there any update on this? And then, if we get that feedback, it launches the second email back to the end user saying, hey, or the point of contact that entered the information says, hey, we understand that it's been fixed. Is everything good on your end? Blah, blah, blah. Is that a beneficial component as far as a CFESA member is concerned? And then also, of the CFESA membership, do most of CFESA member agents have that back end process to do that by email, or is it better coming in the form of a phone call? Is it better to go that way, or is the digital version that I previously described work well for a CFESA member?
I would think the digital version would probably work best. We're accustomed to dealing with, sadly, over a dozen different platforms these days, so it's a language that we've been forced to learn. But the part of the relationship building that happens there is you send me an issue through email, I'm going to get it plugged in, I'm going to get it on the board, I'm going to be thankful for all the particulars of that issue that you've given me, so I can try to deduce what the best thing to show up with, so we can eliminate downtime and get it fixed on the first trip if we can. But the relationship part of that is Mike calling up Nick saying, hey, I'm not sending this one over email, I need your help right now. And, you picking your spots with that, and me saying, hey, I got to close one more call per tech per day anyway. Let me make a way that Mike's is one of those. And, you can't be the guy or the gal with a hair in your biscuit every time. You go to the store and you order a biscuit and it's got a hair in it. You walk up to the counter and say, hey, there's a hair in my biscuit. They're going to give you another biscuit, right? But if you come back on Tuesday and you say, hey, I got another hair in my biscuit, you just become that guy that's always got a hair in the biscuit that nobody wants to sell biscuits to anymore. Not saying that that's any of you guys or any of your peers, but I'm just, as an example, you got to pick your spots. I have to do the same thing, when I'm running my business too.
So, Nick, one of the biggest, I'll say, challenges or time constraints that I think a lot of us have on a given day is when we do make that phone call into a service agent to help find out maybe where a call is in the queue. Is there any software out there that you know about that we would be able to, maybe log in a serial number, or if we know that, if it was Sam that had the call, that way we don't have to tie up your agents on the phone or, wait in queue for a long time in order to be able to ask a question just to find out a tech's, already been there or going out there tomorrow. Something like that, I think, would be extremely helpful as far as time goes on an end. But I was just curious if you know of anything that CFESA is working on or anything out there.
Yeah, everything that I've seen that's been successful with that has been proprietary by a member. It's nothing industry-wide for all service agents to use yet. It's very sensitive information that you would ask people to share at that point that people are a little averse to do for the most part, but I have seen it work really, really well from some CFESA members that we have that I could share with you guys. If they're in your market, you should definitely look into it. We're looking into it ourselves at SAM. We haven't cracked the code on it yet. Haven't been able to focus in and get it done with excellence yet, so we've been holding back. But from a CFESA standpoint, not yet.
Along those lines, I think, just to segue from that, because it's related in the software side, all of our homes are tied up with the Internet of Things. Restaurant, food service as a whole is inevitably moving there fairly quickly as well, right? So there's going to be data that is related to energy, utilization or programming, or being able to, for a service agent to remotely access a piece of equipment through the web, says, yeah, I can see the error code, from here, blah, blah, blah. So when I show up at the call, I'll have, XYZ parts, and, my tech will be prepared to deal with that issue based on the error code that we currently see. And to your point of saying, yeah, we've seen that, but it's kind of proprietary to, individual CFESA members. I get data is the new currency, right? So I get the data being proprietary and valuable, but do you see a value in a standardization of that information so that, it doesn't matter whether you're, one of the Middleby brands, one of the ITW brands, one of the Ali groups, or one of the independent manufacturers, but if you're dealing in that realm, that we have a standardized process of communication for, service agents to be able to remotely access some of that intelligent equipment, and then working backwards to Sean's question to kind of have us or even the customer be able to access that so that they can get a status as well.
100% see value in it. It does feel like a very aggressive ask. Feel like there's a lot that would have to be overcome for that to happen. But hey, if it was easy, everybody'd do it, right? There's going to be somebody that steps up and figures it out. And I imagine that it'll help everybody. Yeah, so I definitely see that being a value add if we could figure it out, and I'm open to that for what it's worth. Hard does not intimidate me or any of my peers at CFESA. We just need some help.
Yeah. So how long is your term? We're going to be able to get that finished in the first go.
I'm just trying not to get kicked out of the presidency for the first time, man.
Well, that's a good segue to tell us what are you doing for CFESA? What does it mean to be the president of CFESA?
I was able to link up with our board when our first quarterly board meeting that we had. I said, hey, I really want to challenge everybody to come up with what 10 years from now looks like. So us as a board came up with that 33 by 33. One thing that I've learned in my life is it's amazing the places that you can get to if you just tell people that's where you want to go. And if they get aligned behind that and they say, oh, that's where we're going, I'd like to go there. And I'd say, well, come on with me. Let's go together. I don't think I can do it alone. I don't think we can do it alone. And then once you get clarity on what does winning look like, all of a sudden you get alignment with a whole bunch of different things that you can attack and tackle. So the way that we've done that as a board is we come up with twice a year the 3 to 5 most important things for us to achieve. And then we hold each other accountable to doing that. And we're seeing tremendous success in that with some marketing things that we've done, and even with some operational approaches that we've done as well. And I'm just grateful to be a part of a good team that, accountable people don't mind being held accountable. And we got a lot of winners in CFESA, and we're getting a lot of stuff done. And I'm grateful to be at the helm for a little bit to, get invited on and be the face of it.
That's a brilliant response, Nick, and you should be proud of that. And this has been a pretty inspirational conversation from my perspective, and I know that I speak for Sean and Mike when I say that, and all of the MAFSI members that are going to watch this, and all of CFESA members, and any channel partners that get to hear you describe your business, describe what you're doing at CFESA, I think should take note, and you'll get to that 33 and 33. I promise you, because you're leading people that way. We could talk about this for a long time. We want to keep these podcasts to a certain length of time. I'd like to outro this podcast by asking everybody to take, or at least to provide at least one key takeaway that this conversation has left you with, and that you will think about, work on, implement in your own business. I'll start with Sean.
Definitely the thing that resonates the most with me is the part about don't overpromise the service agent's time, and because we don't want to set them up for failure right off the gate. So I think having a conversation and get what are the expectations for that particular call, and to kind of lay the groundwork out to the customer ahead of time, and don't overpromise, and have an open, honest relationship or an open, honest conversation with the customer, and kind of let them know where they are in line and what the expectations should be, so that way they're not set up for disappointment.
Mike?
So I'm going to chime in on your second core value that really struck a chord with me. I'm going to adopt that fully. So honest communication. I loved what you just said too about letting people know where you want to go, right? If we can manage to align our visions, right, with the singular focus of if the end customer is happy, right? And that's all of our goals, right? Whether it's a service partner, wanting to get a first time fix, right? So we're getting that done, or whether it's, it's us, making sure that we've met their expectations, or the dealer has, gone above and beyond, to service them. It's all of those things coming together make this process work, regardless of what segment of the food service / hospitality industry is. So I have enjoyed this and hearing you speak very, very much. And I can't wait to pick your brain a little bit more off the podcast.
100%.
Nice, Mike. So at the beginning of this conversation, Nick, you talked about creating leaders in your business and creating leaders in your peers at CFESA. I am going to singularly focus on that as a word that describes how I'm going to manage our next processes, the things that we're going to do in my business. And you made an impact just with that one word, because it's pretty all encompassing, and I think we take it for granted and we don't use it enough. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to you, Nick, to leave us with your lasting impression.
Yeah, man, I'm just grateful to be alongside of you guys in this great world of food service and love the play on words. It can be ugly sometimes, but it is also very rewarding and very fulfilling. When I look at those football players and basketball players at the end of the game, most of the time they're completely spent, worn out, even in victory or even in defeat, rather. But it's worth it, right? And that's how I feel in this role that I'm in this great industry. Is you take your wins and you take your losses, but you leave it all on the field, and it's a great way to live. And I do think it's worth considering, Mike, a world where people could log in and see exactly what they've got going on. I don't think that the grandiosity of getting that done should intimidate someone from trying to achieve it. So I will carry that to my board, and I'll see if somebody's got a better idea than I do as I sit here right now, and see if maybe we can't get all the way there. Maybe we can just get 2 feet closer to it.
Excellent.
One step.
So one last question for you, Nick, because we are in food service, we're in hospitality. 3 favorite restaurants. Let's hear them.
Golly, y'all are going to judge me. My number one favorite restaurant is a place in Leesburg, Georgia called Riverfront Barbecue. They have the world's best fried catfish on the planet. Nobody's even close. My second restaurant would be any steakhouse in one of the great American cities that I go to. One of the things that I love to do in my role as FESA's president is I go to a bunch of different places. I get to experience the different cities' best steakhouse. And sometimes I take in the New York strip. Sometimes I get the ribeye, but it's always just a really cool experience. And the third is not a restaurant either, but it is my fried chicken wings that I make at my house. They are amazing. If you're ever in Albany, Georgia, you're going to come eat some chicken wings with me, and they are, you'll suck it all off the bone, I promise
Love
you.
it.
I'm in.
Yeah.
We go tomorrow. Nick, cheers. Thank you very, very much.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.